Before I introduce Maharaj, I'd just like to acknowledge people who are coming for the first time. I see Melissa, who responded from Festival of India, and she's attending. Welcome. And I don't know if anybody else is coming for the first time, but if you are, please feel free to turn on your video and identify yourself. Welcome. His Holiness Romapad Swami has been practicing Bhakti Yoga for the last 50 years. He's a senior disciple of His Divine Grace Srila Prabhupada, a celibate monk in the Bhakti Yoga tradition, and he's dedicated his life to sharing the teachings of the Bhagavad Gita with people all over the world, particularly with college students. So we're very, very fortunate that he'll be sharing his deep wisdom with us today. So without further ado, I will turn it over to His Holiness Romapad Swami.
Thank you. As usual, you're a very good MC. I'd like to know could you answer this question? Are there persons on this call or this discussion who are new and need a little introduction to Bhagavad Gita?
So anybody else who's coming for the first time? Monica, hello? Yeah. Hi.
Do you need, Monica, you need an introduction to Bhagavad Gita? Little? You're okay? Okay. The picture on the screen is the cover picture for Bhagavad Gita. It's a painting of Krishna and Arjuna, the two principal personalities within the Bhagavad Gita text. And as you see, there's this wide open space in the middle, but on two sides are two very large armies, massive armies, about to engage in battle. And the scene is Arjuna, great hero, requests his dear friend Krishna to draw the chariot in between the two armies so he can see who's who on which sides and everything. And in the course of seeing what he sees, he has great apprehension about what's about to happen, and he asks Krishna, what is my duty? So that's the starting point. And then through the course of Bhagavad Gita, the yoga system is explained. The knowledge of the Vedas is presented in a summary way. Of course, his question is answered, what is his duty? But to get the answer to what is duty, there's lots of other important understandings that one needs to have in order to understand what one's duty is. So, Bhagavad Gita is a classic literature that has endured centuries and generations, a classic wisdom literature. Some years ago, some of you may know this, there's a group of ISKCON devotees in the UK that were academically inclined and had established relationships with many of the professors and administrators at Oxford University. And after some time, a department under, I believe it's religion department, or it's under the philosophy and religion department, whatever the department at Oxford University, they gradually established a 4-year accredited course in Vaishnava studies. And there are some persons who are devotees who are professors and some who are not professors in that department. Oxford University group, religious studies. So if you want, and when you finish your University of Maryland degree, you can go off to Oxford University and get another degree in Vaishnava studies if you want. That group at Oxford University felt, let's get out of the ivory tower a little bit and make this classic Bhagavad Gita knowledge accessible to people of the world so they can understand its essence in a very simple and accessible way. So they, in collaboration with a handful of ISKCON people, not myself, but people like myself that reach the public audiences a whole lot, spent some time, a year plus, distilling down the message of Bhagavad Gita in 6 very simple bits of knowledge or wisdom. They called it Gita values. So there are 6 of those values that they wrote a little paragraph for each one. And I'm going to be presenting the first of those 6. And let's see what time permits. Maybe sometime in the future we'll go to some of the other ones in the Gita values. So that's the background of what we're about to do. And somehow this looks like it's backwards. Look on the screen. Okay. Okay. Values within the wisdom of Bhagavad Gita. That's our topic. Now we're going to start with spiritual culture and its values. There are some people who it's their profession, who make it their profession, have the profession of doing what's called cultural engineering. I don't know if you've heard that one before. There's different kinds of engineering, but this is a little on the soft side. Social engineering or cultural engineering. For example, when a company is bought out and there's a new CEO for that company, they do this cultural engineering. They evaluate what's the current culture of this organization and what would we like it to be, and what are some of the changes that are needed to get to the culture we want it to be. That's cultural engineering. So whether it's a group, a business, or a not-for-profit organization, or a group of people, or an individual, each one of us, we can take a look at what spiritual culture means. We can look at what spiritual culture means and the values connected with spiritual culture. That's the starting point. We're entering into the topic of the Gita values by looking at spiritual culture and its values. There's an iceberg. I received this from somebody that has studied. It's not their profession to do cultural engineering, but they've studied it. And one of the metaphors that's used is this one, the iceberg of culture. So everybody knows about the Titanic and what happened. They ran into the bottom part of the iceberg because the tip was only the tip, and there was a much bigger part below the tip. So in an iceberg, there's the visible part that's at the top. And the iceberg of culture says, as far as culture, they use this word artifacts. It's measurable things within a culture. Something that comes in contact with your senses. Behaviors, symbols, language, idioms, things that people say and do that are observable and perceivable and measurable. That's the visible part of culture. And just below the surface of the water of that iceberg is the cultural values, stated values of any organization or group or individual. The official beliefs an organization's common, its mission statements, basically what you say is important. So what's important to you as an individual, that's your values. And commonly, values drive behaviors. But behaviors can also impact values. So there's an interplay between the two. Measurable things and the values that are not so measurable, but they're intrinsic to behaviors, measurable things. And then there's the bottom of the iceberg, and that's what's called assumptions, or something that doesn't change with time. Values can change, behaviors can change, but there's some things that just don't change. Deeply held beliefs, convictions, unchallenged certainties. Let's take one, just to give an example. We're spirit soul. That's a reality, or a conviction in a reality, a deeply held conviction that isn't dependent upon your values. It isn't dependent upon your behaviors. It's a deepest held, unchanging certainty or reality. And the idea with culture, spiritual culture, is to align those three parts of the iceberg. Behaviors with values, with the unchanging realities or certainties of life. That's spiritual culture. We're going to focus mainly in that middle section. The stated values, these 6, are stated values within Bhagavad Gita. I'll just mention it one more time. Values will drive behaviors, and behaviors can impact values. And in Bhagavad Gita, there's certain assumptions that we'll become aware of as we go along with Bhagavad Gita, but the focus is to that middle part, stated values. 2 more slides are just meant to be introduction to the overall concept or notion of Gita values. There's something at the bottom that's information. A lot of what is modern education is information related. You are rewarded by receiving information, processing that information, and when you have exams, you can give it back. Then you get an A in your exam, and you do well in your courses, and you are rewarded for having information-based knowledge. But there's another kind of knowledge, that's the Bhagavad Gita kind of knowledge, where it's wisdom. It guides life. Not just getting a task fulfilled, but it guides your life. That's what wisdom is. People that can see beyond the obvious, perceivable, observable events and facts that are around them, and understand how to navigate their way towards a higher goal, a mission of life. That's wisdom. It's like, say, all cultures. I visit China, and they are very keen and fond, and they celebrate their wisdom literature. Confucius and Lao Tzu and different persons, and there's wisdom in what they write. Values to live by is a large part of what they teach, so that the human society becomes elevated, and consciousness becomes elevated. Persons have more culture, and they behave properly within society and amongst other nations, and within their own population, etc. Those are wisdom literatures of China, very much revered to this day. So Bhagavad Gita is one such wisdom literature that has a very specific set of values and specific set of deeply held convictions. So let's move on. When you have a goal, let's use the same language, cultural engineering goal, there's an individual, you or me, that understand these are values that we hold. We've thought about it, we've read some wisdom literature, and it resonates. However, commonly, we're not there yet as far as our vision and our values. There's something of a gap. And there's a nice illustration to show what a gap is. Over on the left, that's people that are entering a door, and over on the right, it's people going through the other side of the door. And there's this big space in between, like where you are, where you want to be, your goals of life. And in social engineering, that's called liminal space. The big gap between where you are and where you want to be with an organization, with a company, within your own life, within a family, liminal space. The understanding of not being where you want to be and being where you are instead of where you want to be, that's uncomfortable. And even more uncomfortable is transitioning from where you are to where you want to be. That can be very, very uncomfortable. Everybody knows what transitioning, how uncomfortable it can be. It's an adventure, but it can be uncomfortable. So same with the spiritual culture of Bhagavad Gita. There may be values, that's that door on the right that we see, and then there's the acknowledgement of where we are presently in terms of how well we perform according to our values. And we're going to have a couple of exercises during this session where I'm going to ask you to introspect, and we'll do some liminal space exercises. The good news is that discomfort is assisted in Bhagavad Gita by Krishna's help. We're not alone in making a transition to get to where we want to go. Okay, so that's the background. Maybe if we do Gita value number 2, we get that far someday, we'll do a little review of this because it's important to help us make that transition to the values that we wish to imbibe. The first of the values that these Oxford University professors and the people that are assisting them came up with is this samadarshanaha. That phrase is taken directly from a verse of Bhagavad Gita. You'll see it as we go along. Sama means equal, and darshana means to see. Equal vision. Equal vision. So let's take a look at what the Gita says about equal vision. For starters, there's lots of variety in the world in which we live. There's a very interesting tree that has different kinds of fruits growing on it. And up in the center, there's different bugs and insects. And over there on the right, there's different kinds of birds and aquatics and animals and more animals with horns and teeth and so forth. So there's lots of variety. Lots and lots and lots of differences. Lots of differences. And that's different species. And then let's take a look at the human species. Lots and lots and lots of differences of language and culture and complexion and national interests. So many differences, sometimes too many differences. People get into disputes with one another over their differences. And there's also different ways by which an individual will react to some circumstance. We have our subjective, emotional differences from different people. That's easy to see. So we have different life forms, different people, different situations, different exchanges. That's the reality around us. Question, natural question, how are we supposed to live by this value of equal vision described in Bhagavad Gita? because it's a value, equal vision. Down in the lower right-hand side of the screen, you'll see a key. And the upper left of that same screen, there's a lock shaped like a heart. So the key opens the lock, the heart. The key to equal vision is described this way. The Gita's idea of equal vision speaks of the equality of all living beings where life is respected, regardless of race, gender, caste, creed, or species. Within those differences, there's unity in diversity. Nice phrase, unity in diversity. Here's another painting that illustrates this unity in diversity principle. The illustration is meant to show the evolution of life from lower species up to higher species. And if you look carefully, you'll see in the chest of the human, in the chest of the gorilla, in the chest of each of those other life forms, there's a glowing spark. And then off in the sky, there's a whole bunch of sparks all over the place. So that spark is that unity. That's the commonality amongst all living beings, is there's a spark of life within. And the spark of life within is the eternal, unchanging spiritual energy. We'll say without that spiritual energy, when that spiritual energy or soul leaves the body disintegrates. It's matter that's moving from the life that's within, that unchanging spiritual energy. That's common to all of us. So now let's find out what Bhagavad Gita says about us all being spirit souls. See that little skinny guy? That's one of us. That's the spirit soul. And according to Bhagavad Gita, each soul is unique and different, very individual, yet they're all eternal. They're cognizant or full of knowledge and blissful. You may know the phrase in Sanskrit, Sat, Chit, and Ananda. Sat, Chit, Ananda. That's each and every soul. Within all the differences, there's this one thing that's the unifying factor within all of us. Or a little cute picture. We're not human beings having a spiritual experience, we're spiritual beings having a human experience. Cute picture. So there's differences, and at the same time, within those differences, we are spiritual beings. That's the sama darshana, the equal vision, the sameness. So now I'm going to ask you, this is a little feel your soul meditation. So I hope you don't mind doing a little guided meditation. It helps to do, just if you don't mind, just follow I'll be the suggesting facilitator, and you just feel along, and hopefully you'll get to feel your soul through this 3-minute exercise. Literally take a few deep breaths with your eyes closed. I'll even say, deeply inhale and exhale. Inhale with your eyes closed. Exhale. One more. Inhale. Exhale. Then, with your eyes still closed, with your inner senses, wiggle your toes and your feet and feel your feet. Then move up a little bit to your lower legs. Feel your lower legs. And then a little higher, your thighs And then move your mind and thought process to your stomach area on the front side. Then to your back, feel your whole back. Then we'll go again to the front side, feel your chest, your arms, your face and head. Now that's your body, but you're not the body. So now consider the mind that's been doing all these things, but you're the observer of the mind, so you're not the mind either. You're not the thoughts or emotions within the mind, you're the observer of those thoughts and the emotions within the mind. Now at this time, be present with yourself and stay there. Take a slow, deep breath and go inside your heart where the soul is. And that's you. You're that soul connected to divine grace. Stay there. Some of you like mantra meditation, so you can softly or in your mind say the mantra. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Okay, thank you for assisting. Open your eyes. And we're in the world around us, and we're the observer of the world around us. But that conscious self, that powerful conscious self situated within the region of the heart, extends consciousness throughout the body and into the subtle body. And that spark of life, that soul, is very powerful and at the same time very tiny. According to the Vedic literature, let's take a look and see what the Vedic literature says. When the upper point of a hair is divided into 100 parts, and again, each of such parts is further divided into 100 parts, each such part is the measurement of the dimension of the spirit soul. Very, very tiny. 1/10,000th the tip of a hair. Just the tip of the hair. And that same tiny, tiny, tiny soul animates the body of a little squirrel. The same tiny, tiny, powerful soul animates the body of an elephant and everything in between. Tiny, but very powerful. And it's the source of the sameness. Now let's take a look. Maybe you can see this on your screen. This is a Bhagavad Gita verse from chapter 15, where Krishna says, the living entity, thus taking another gross body, obtains a certain type of ear. There's an elephant ear. Eye, tongue, nose, and sense of touch, which are grouped about the mind. He thus enjoys a particular set of sense objects. So there's the mind.
Yes, if everyone could please mute themselves. Thank you.
You can mute all. It's an option.
Can you mute everybody and that may resolve the problem, or I'm being prompted to ask you to do that?
Make you the host, co-host and mute out. So anybody joins.
Karuna, is that good now, or can I continue?
Yes, Maharaj, it seems resolved.
Okay, thank you. So let's go back. So you see the screen. This is a Bhagavad Gita teaching that says there's the soul, and there's a mind, and there's senses grouped around the mind. Senses are, in one sense, listen carefully, senses are the gross organs that you see, the ears of the elephant, the eyes of the owl, etc., the tongue of the dog. There's sense organs, but on the subtle level, there's subtle senses that are subtle like the mind is subtle. You don't see the mind, and you don't see the subtle senses. They work through the organs, but there's the subtle senses. Okay? And in the human form of life, we have fascination for all the sense objects with varieties of senses. So we have difference of bodies, difference of minds, difference of sets of senses, differences, and there's something that's the same within all those forms of life that we just saw, and the different types of senses and sense organs, etc. There's the same unique quality of an amazing spirit soul within each and every form of life. That is the basis of equal vision. So while seeing differences, no problem, because there are differences. There's a equality, although some soul may be in the body of an elephant, another soul is in the body of a human, etc., a bug, a germ, COVID-19 virus, and all kinds of things that have living entities inside them. Here's a verse from chapter 3 of Bhagavad Gita. Remember, our whole evening together is, what are the values of Bhagavad Gita? The first one being Samadarshana. So it's Bhagavad Gita emphasis. There's consciousness of all living entities that's covered by illusory energy. Bhagavad Gita chapter 3, 38, you can look it up later. Coverings are compared to the modes of nature, like the mode of ignorance, where the embryo is covered by the womb. That's in the tree form of life, covered by ignorance or passion. Consciousness can be compared to a mirror covered by dust, or fire covered by smoke. So we see species in these three pictures: a tree, different types of animals, and humans. Consciousness is covered less, generally speaking, in the human form of life compared to animals. And consciousness is covered less in animals compared to trees. So there's degrees of covering of consciousness. All the while, the spirit soul is there, but there's coverings. Those coverings make differences. There's a difference between the species of a tree and the species of animals and the species of humans. The differences have to do with the coverings, not to do with the soul that's within. That's the point with equal vision. Bhagavad Gita teaches us this. Therefore, here's that verse from Bhagavad Gita. The humble sage, or sages, that's that fellow with his left shoulder to us. The humble sages, by virtue of true knowledge, see with equal vision a learned and gentle Brahmana. That's that fellow over there to the left with his palms folded. A cow next to him, an elephant behind him, a dog next to the cow, and a dog eater behind the dog. Dog eater doesn't look like a nice fellow. But notice within each of those categories, there's that spark in the region of the heart, because that's where the soul is. So each, although there's differences, a person who knows Bhagavad Gita's message, who lives by virtue of true knowledge, they can see with equal vision all those different living entities, because they see the spark of life within. Very essential for equal vision, for treatment of other living entities equally. It's a value that's resting upon spiritual understanding. That spiritual understanding in its vision awards personhood to all. It links everyone with the divine grace, and consequently with each other. We're almost done here. Equal vision begins with seeing ourselves according to who we really are, and in turn to see others who they really are. Let's speak about a dysfunctional relationship. One of the ways of describing a dysfunctional relationship is where I don't know who the other person is, and I don't know who I am, and I'm trying to have a relationship with them. And I want to have a relationship. We're social beings. We want to have friends and relationships, good relationships. But if I don't know who I am, and I don't know who the other person is, how can I have a wholesome relationship at all? A lot of the dysfunctionality between people or societies or nations or whatever is because they really don't know who they are, and they don't know who the other person is either. And so there's focus goes to the differences, not to who the people are. Now a little reflection, and I request you to please actually take this seriously. This, you can write something down that's encouraged in this text. What are some challenging situations where you feel that you cannot see different people with equal vision? One of the times I conducted this presentation at a university, I won't mention the name which one, at the end during the discussion, the feedback was this was the most powerful part of the whole experience, the presentation. So please take it seriously. Some challenging situation or situations where you feel currently that you cannot see different people with equal vision. Then even more specifically, think of one person in your life with whom you have difficulty, now or in the past. Write down the incident that happened between you, or series of incidents, and how you felt about it at that time that it happened. So take some time. Trying to finish up. When we're in physical presence, it's easy to, when people lift their heads, that means they're ready to move on. And we're doing Zoom, so I can't see people's heads. We'll move on. Now with this inner vision that a meditation experiment took us to, consciously see that same person as a spirit soul. Leaving aside the behavior that was external, that it was not nice, caused you disturbance. Consciously see that same person as a spirit soul. Then write down how doing that changed your feeling towards them. Now, I don't know how we're going to do this next part because we're virtual. The next part says exchange with the person next to you for the next few minutes what you just wrote down or your reflection on this little exercise. So I don't know how to do this. Karuna, you have a suggestion? Do we just invite people to share if they want to? Unmute themselves and share?
I think that's a great idea, Maharaj. Yes, if anybody would like to share, please unmute yourselves and feel free to share if you'd like.
Hare Krishna, Maharaj. Yeah, Maharaj, actually seeing everyone with equal vision was always a challenge, Maharaj. But Maharaj, how to deal with this situation? Like whenever we are in a hurry, it is difficult to, when we are in a hurry or in some kind of caught up in some kind of emotion and everything, it is little rather more difficult to see everyone with that vision. But when after you gave that point, like going inner consciously and just think about that person as a spirit soul, then that is possible. But how to deal with this situation, Maharaj?
Practice. Abhyasa yoga yuktena. From the message of Bhagavad Gita, if you practice and practice and practice, if it becomes a way of life for you, you'll do it naturally, even when you're in a time-sensitive situation.
Okay. And thank you, Maharaj.
There's another, that's a mode of goodness answer. That is when something that's like you brush your teeth every day. You brush your teeth every day because somebody told you, probably your mother or father or your dentist or somebody said, oral hygiene is good for you. And you feel good when you brush your teeth. You feel yucky when you don't brush your teeth, so you brush your teeth every day. And so now you don't have to think about it. It's just you brush your teeth. Even if you're in a hurry, you brush your teeth. So there are some things in life that if we practice them and practice them, it becomes second nature. And you don't really have to think about it because it's just second nature. It's just part of your life. Mode of goodness is like that. The example that you gave is the mode of passion is pressing at the moment, and it's hard to be in the mode of goodness when you're being pressed by the mode of passion. But if you practice and practice, even when there's some pressure, you're going to act in a manner that's respectful and even spiritual. Especially, another mode of goodness principle is to interact with others in a way that you would want them to interact with you. You've heard that one before, right? Do unto others. You know that principle? Do unto others as you. It's universal. All wisdom literature teaches this one. They say it in different ways, but the one I grew up with was, do unto others as you would like them to do unto you. So that's a mode of goodness principle. People that live in the mode of goodness, people that have wisdom, that's how they live. So supposing the table was turned and you were on the receiving end of someone else being abrupt because they were in a hurry or they were pressed for time, it doesn't feel good. And it's a cultured person that even if they're pressed for time, they don't toss to the wind behaviors and speech and conduct and character that's becoming. It can be brief and succinct, but people of character are not neglectful. So be such a person because you would like other people to be like that with you. So it's a spiritual vision that's supported by the mode of goodness. I hope you understand my message here.
Yes, Maharaj. Thank you very much. I'll try to apply those principles and try to practice more.
It doesn't come quickly. Good things take some time. They take cultivation and culture. But
yeah, sure, Maharaj.
It's worthwhile.
Thank you, Maharaj.
Spiritual vision comes, ultimately, it comes very naturally. Where the covered condition inhibits, but the higher consciousness condition is who we really are, and it is natural. Anyone else on this topic? Yeah.
The person.
We're not hearing you. Now we can hear you.
Okay. So the person I thought of was my sister. Do you guys hear me?
You're good. Keep going.
Yeah. So I found it was my sister.
No, we're not hearing you. We're not hearing you.
I'm just gonna type it out.
Okay, mic it up. Oh, you're muting yourself. Okay. Okay.
She's going to type it up in the chat.
Oh, she's going to type it in the chat box. Okay. Okay.
And in the meanwhile, if anybody else would like to go, we'll come back to Simran's comment.
Okay. Karuna, you'll have to read her comment, okay? After she finishes. Okay. One more while we're waiting, and then we'll move on.
Anyone in the room, perhaps, if nobody from Zoom?
Anyone in the room here would like to speak something? We do have one in the room. Look at this.
Okay.
Hare Krishna Maharaj.
Hare Krishna.
So my question is, you showed that image where a humble sage, a knowledgeable sage is able to see all of them with an equal vision.
Correct.
So my question is, do they literally see the soul because of their yogic, knowledge?
No, they see through knowledge.
To the knowledge, okay.
Because the soul's too tiny.
Mm-hmm.
Soul is smaller than an atom. Who can see an atom?
Okay.
So they don't literally see the soul, but they see through the eye of knowledge. That's the lens. Just like the example is this. I need glasses. So you're there, but it's kind of blurry. But when I have my corrective lenses on, the seeing is direct, but it's through the lens. Then the seeing is corrected. Similarly, seeing through the lens or through the eye of knowledge or scripture, shastra chakshus or jnana chakshus in Sanskrit, then your seeing is direct. Pratyaksha avagamam dharmyam susukam kartamavyam, Bhagavad Gita chapter 9. Pratyaksha means to directly perceive. So Krishna says this knowledge is meant to give direct perception of the self by realization. It's direct, and it's seeing through, but seeing through the eyes of knowledge, which is, that's seeing. He's got all this equipment over here on the floor. To me, it's a bunch of spaghetti wires, and I don't understand the whole thing. But for him, he knows which button to push and which this and that because he has knowledge of how the whole thing works. Or car mechanic, if the car goes kaput, I can try to sort it out, but I get a mechanic and he looks at the thing and presses something and zoom. Or if it's more serious, then he knows how to do the more serious one, because there's knowledge. And that's on the material side. So similarly, by spiritual knowledge, one can see directly. How are we doing with our chat window? Are we ready to go?
Yes, Maharaj. So I can read it out now if you'd like.
Please.
Okay, so Simran says, so the person I chose was my sister because I find it hard to see her with equal vision. And often I get mad at her for things I wouldn't get mad at other people for doing. So when I look at the situation with inner vision, I realize that she's no different than the people I treat nicely, if that makes sense.
Yes.
And just a suggestion, if you have an earphone or the microphone, if you'd like to interact or respond, just a suggestion if that may work. So yes, Maharaj, so that was the comment.
Okay. Are we going to get to interview your sister? And is she going to see you as spirit soul? And how's she going to feel about seeing you as spirit soul instead of a nagging sister? Anyway. What goes around comes around. If you give that kind of appreciation for another as spirit soul, guess what? That's how, in course of time at least, others will begin to relate to you. You're not the covering, the mind, or the body. You're the soul within. And when you see others that way, and others will begin to see you that way more. I mean, it's not a one-to-one fit, but more. You put out that spiritual consciousness energy, and it comes back to you. Okay? Okay. Share this with your sister and see what happens. Huh? Okay.
He adds, I have definitely seen that when I stop nagging or finding reasons to fight. She also does.
Oh, good. Good. So let us open up the floor for discussion. Here's the last slide. This is another beautiful painting of Krishna and Arjuna on the chariot of Krishna speaking Bhagavad Gita to his dear friend Arjuna. So either any of the sharing of that little exercise, either of the exercises that we did, or for that matter, anything that we discussed this evening, or for that matter, anything off topic that you like. You got me in your disposal. Anything you like. Any comments or questions from our audience here online? We'll start there.
So this is a really golden opportunity. So if anybody has a question, you can turn on your video and raise your hand, and we can call on you. Or if for some reason that does not work, you can just unmute yourself and start speaking. And if that doesn't work either, you can type your question on chat.
Looks like there's some box already.
Yes, Maharaj, that's from Simran. I think, the last one
Okay,
that I read out.
okay.
But yes, if anybody else has a question, please indicate.
Hare Krishna Maharaj,
Yeah.
I got another question. So, how do we see the consciousness and intelligence? Like, how do I see them, Maharaj?
What's the difference between intelligence and consciousness? That's your question?
Yes, Maharaj.
Because you don't see either of them, they're subtle. But the distinction between consciousness, intelligence is discerning capacity. And consciousness is from the soul. Just picture this in your mind. There's a candle or a lamp or a light bulb, and that's luminous. So the candle flame is luminous, and there's light that's spreading out from that candle flame. The light that's spreading out from the candle flame is its illumination. Similarly, the soul is conscious, that's the flame, and consciousness, that's the light emanating from the flame. Consciousness is awareness, and intelligence is discerning capacity. You can distinguish this from that, one thing from another thing. So like I have in front of me, there's a cup that has some kind of liquid. So, I mean, I haven't seen it, but I can reason that's what it is because they've made it. So my intelligence is to discern what that thing is over there. And consciousness is what permits me to, the senses and sense organs and sense perception, to go over there and just see the object and discern. It's a faculty of discernment or discrimination. That's the intelligence. Does that help?
Yes, Maharaj. Yeah. Thank you very much.
I'm just talking about it, now I'm thirsty.
I had another comment or question type thing. Can you guys hear me now? I'm using my phone.
Well, I can hear you great.
Okay, good. So you mentioned something in passing. You mentioned that, one second, I just lost my page. You mentioned that values impact behavior, but behavior can also impact values.
Yes.
And that was really, that hit me pretty hard because I've noticed that, like, on one hand, you know, what your values are, that come out in your behavior and what you do.
Yes.
But sometimes if you want to have certain values and you don't have them yet, you can behave as if you have them, and then you start to actually have them, if
Yes.
that makes sense.
And you can be around people that have certain behaviors that then impact your values. And you start
Yes.
to adopt behaviors like the people around you because you just shifted your value system and as well your behavior system. Therefore, it's very important to be selective. That's what intelligence does. It selects the company that you keep because you develop qualities and behaviors like the company you keep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's association, very important.
Yes, very important. Very important.
Thanks for sharing that line. That was really wonderful.
That's why Karuna has arranged this club so we can have association once a week at least. Right, Karuna?
Yes, Maharaj, though I'm not the one who's arranged it, but yes, that's true. Yes.
Okay. Anyone else online? And otherwise we'll look around the room here and see what happens. Okay, there's silence. We have something in the room here.
Yes, Maharaj, please.
Go ahead.
Hare Krishna Maharaj. On the point that you mentioned,
Well, I can hear you. Keep speaking. Ah, she's a technology graduate.
Hare Krishna Maharaj. On the point you mentioned, like do unto others as you would like others to do unto you. So I'm thinking, like, if I have some bad experience because the other person had hurt me, and if I can also relate, like I could also hurt the other person in that way, then I can see that equal. I can think, okay, what if it was me? I would expect the other person to forgive me. So
Yes,
yeah,
easier
but-
said than done, but that's what you would expect.
yes. But if someone does hurt me in a very bad way possible, and I think I can never do that to others, then how do I?
You're looking for a back door. Two things. The behavior that was really bad that you would never do. It's not. You have to say okay to the bad behavior. You say okay to the person. That's big. That's the equal vision part. I'll say it again. That you're forgiving of the person doesn't mean you're necessarily forgiving of the behavior. If it's bad behavior, it's bad behavior. But that's not the person. I may choose to keep myself a little distant from persons that have repeated, consistent bad behavior tendency. But they're still spirit soul. Now, back to this specific question you asked. Someone says something or does something that's hurtful. We probably all have had it happen. Something that's like really bad. Like really bad. And it's not just short term, it's just like really bad. The spirit, why does somebody do something that's really bad like that? The reason is they're in pain. Commonly, they've been a victim and now they're being the perpetrator. They've been hurt and they're lashing out because they're in this painful space. You can feel compassion for them. That doesn't mean the behavior is okay. But here's a spirit soul that's been caught in who knows what they've been through. There's this saying that says, if you know what another person has had to endure, you can easily forgive them. We don't know their autobiography. They do. And when people do hurtful things, it's the modes of nature and karma and all that stuff. But inside, there's some that they're in a lot of pain. They've been hurt really badly, and they're hurting back because it's just preservation. So we don't have to say that behavior is okay, no problem.
Yes, Maharaj, that helps.
Yeah, to see the soul, and there's forces moving that soul to that bad, hurtful behavior. We wish that soul would not have those forces acting upon them because it's causing them suffering. And it's bringing suffering not just to you, but to others. After you, then there's another person, and before you, there's someone before them. because they're in a painful situation. They should be relieved from that pain. But that takes knowledge. A key to understanding the root cause of all suffering is ignorance. So you wish knowledge for that person because that's the cause, is ignorance. So if you can wish knowledge upon that other person, you'll feel much better about the other person and much less about your own pain.
Yes, Maharaj, that really helped me. Thank you very much.
Okay, something else? You have something? No. Okay. How are we doing? We have something online. Can we do an online question? Pass the microphone. Mahamantra, can you take the microphone from her? We're looking at the screen. If anybody on the screen has something. I see, like.
Hare Krishna.
Go ahead. Rashmi, go ahead.
Yes, thank you, Maharaj. You were speaking about the mode of goodness.
Yes.
Can you give some more practical tips for how to stay in goodness? Even when even when there's a lot going on and like you're in a rush to get things done, stuff like that.
Okay.
Maybe you're even surrounded by passionate people that you can't avoid.
Yeah. The world is filled. Well, here's a picture of the universe. In this middle planetary region, it's the planet, it's a region of passion. Above is goodness, below is ignorance, and we're in the middle planetary region, and it's known as a place of passion, fruitive activities. Go, 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 achieve, 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 win, 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 defeat, defeat, defeat. Enjoy, enjoy, enjoy. Work hard and enjoy. So that's the place where we are. So we're surrounded by that mode. It's just the nature of the place. So now how do you cultivate goodness when you're surrounded by, or even there are forces like that acting within you that are of the nature of passion? Good question. Understanding what the nature of goodness is a good place. So reading Bhagavad Gita will help you. This wisdom literature will help you understand what's what. Some very simple items of cultivation of goodness are what you eat foods in the mode of goodness, eat at regulated times. The tongue is a very powerful force to cultivate the modes of nature, up or down or whatever. Control the tongue, and you can help control other senses. That's a Vedic wisdom point. So choose foods in the mode of goodness, and take your meals at a regular time in moderation. Not too little, not too much. Moderation. Another, cleanliness is you live your life around you and inside and outside, but particularly starting with outside, clean. Cleanliness is next to godliness. You've heard that one, I'm sure. So regulation in your habits. Let's take the habit of when you go to bed at night and when you get up in the morning. The mode of goodness principle is early to bed, early to rise. You know that one? Makes a man healthy, wealthy, and wise. That's a mode of goodness principle.
Yes.
So it's not like these are easy things to accomplish, but your question was, what are some steps? So I'm just outlining some steps. Be honest. Don't deceive others and don't deceive yourself. That's a mode of goodness principle. Speak. This is from chapter, you have a Bhagavad Gita, you look up chapter 17, text 15, and it gives it some tips in speech in the mode of goodness. Speech is speaking the truth palatably, not harshly, or avoiding speaking the truth because you don't know how to say the truth palatably. Learn cultivate how to speak the truth palatably. That is, with sensitivity to the other person and how it might be perceived or received by them. That's a conduit or a channel that strengthens the quality of goodness. And there's other qualities, charity. So those are some good starting points. Your eating habits are a real good place to start with, in cleanliness, with cultivation of goodness. And if you have this incubation chamber in your life called goodness, it's much easier to stay in goodness, even when there's something pressing on you, like somebody says something nasty, or you're in a hurry, like this first question. There's like a lot going on, and I'm just kind of spun out because there's a lot going on. If you frame your life, you live in this nice incubation chamber of goodness, then it's much easier to stay in goodness and to see with equal vision, to see the soul and not see the covering.
Thank you. Yeah, that's very helpful. Yes. And, we just have to try our best.
Yeah.
We can't change the world around us.
Follow some principles, and that's part of doing your best. Principles from wisdom literature like Bhagavad Gita, that's doing your best. You'll do better than your best without it.
Yes, Maharaj. Thank you.
Sure.
Thank you, Rashmi. Thank you, Maharaj. Maharaj, there's one question on Zoom, but I know there's also a question from Facebook. Which one would you like to take first?
Let's do the live ones. Zoom is the live ones, right?
Yes, Maharaj.
Okay, let's do that, and then we'll go Facebook.
Okay, Maharaj. So this question is from Shubham. He's asking, it's an interesting question. He's asking, is forgiving others for an action that I wouldn't do, does that make me condescending in some sense? Because I'm applying a different standard for the other person, which I won't apply to myself.
That's a very sensitive and good question, as you said. There's risk in the mode of goodness of being smug or thinking yourself better than the other person. That, it's not pure goodness, it's contaminated goodness. But contaminated goodness is better than passion and ignorance. In other words, you have to start from wherever you are. You can't start from where you aren't. So if there's some tendency to pat yourself on the back while you're being forgiving, and the pat yourself on the back is I'm better than you, then that's a risk. But better to be forgiving than hold on to it, because that turns into passion and ignorance quickly. If you're unforgiving, it's a big burden on your back. So are we ready for something Facebook? Oh, we have something in the room. Okay.
Hare Krishna Maharaj.
Hare Krishna.
I wanted to ask...
It will help if you take your mask down while you speak. Sure. Thanks.
I wanted to ask you, sometimes like I'm in a situation when I know that the other party is speaking, against devotee or Vaishnava culture or like Gita values. And in those situations, the other day I was realizing that it is because of ignorance that they are doing this sinful activity, and I should not hold anything negative towards it. I should try to I wrote down actually I should try to see them as spirit souls, and
yes.
Just but it's easy when I'm alone and I'm contemplating on it. It's easier that I'm thinking for future or for past, but when I'm in that situation in the present, um, it just aggravates me when someone says, like something bad about a Vaishnav or about any spiritual practices that we follow. So how should I, I'm trying to incorporate that realization in my behavior, but at the moment, sometimes anger comes out or disappointment comes out.
Two things. Same as the previous question, by cultivation of goodness, you're more likely to stay in goodness in the moment, not just, contemplating later on about something that happened in the past. Mm-hmm. If you cultivate goodness, you'll stay there, more likely. So that's one thing to do. You work towards that mode of goodness standard in your life. The second thing is, if somebody is criticizing a Vaishnav, there's scriptural instruction what to do. And there's three things. And that you don't just sit there like a bump on a log and just, nod your head. That's not one of the options. So you leave the place, or you speak something saying, excuse me, but I don't, you must say something at the moment. It doesn't have to be harsh in retaliation or get into a dispute with the person. But, this isn't okay. Because if you're just silent, you're impacted spiritually by that vilification. Spiritually impacted. So you don't just let it go. So the third option is not really an option. You can take your life. Meaning, it's spiritually very serious. If you're hearing vilification of a Vaishnav, now somebody out of ignorance speaks something about, oh, you silly people, you don't eat onions and garlic, or something. Or you get up early in the morning and you do your japa meditation, and you're fanatics or something. They say something like that out of ignorance. Mm-hmm. That's different than criticizing a Vaishnav. Criticizing a Vaishnav that's pretty serious stuff.
Yeah, like generalization or making fun.
Okay, generalizations, then that's out of ignorance. Here's something you can do. You can wish well for the person. This person, I'm not sufficiently qualified through purity or otherwise to help elevate them. May I become more pure, and that I can, and may this person come to the stage of knowledge instead of this unfortunate circumstance we're in at present. I pray for their upliftment, because knowledge is the antidote for ignorance. And ignorance is the source of things like that. Ignorance is the source of all suffering, according to the Vedic wisdom. Ignorance is the source of all suffering. And they're suffering. They're in ignorance. That's too bad. We don't like that. But I'm not qualified to give that knowledge, because I'm just this little person and I'm new myself, and they're not going to listen to me. So I'll just pray for them.
Thank you, Maharaj.
Okay.
Maharaj, we have one more question on the chat, but I just want to check with you how you are on time.
I'm fine. How are you?
We're okay, Maharaj.
Okay.
As long as you'd like.
Okay, let's go.
Okay, so Maharaj, this question is from Manoj, who I believe is also joining us for the first time, seems. His question is, honesty is considered a good trait.
Yes.
But why are honest trees cut first?
Why honesty what?
Why are honest trees cut first?
Why are honest trees?
Cut first. That's an expression I haven't heard before, but it
I've
seems
never
pretty.
heard. Oh, is this like a metaphor? Honest trees are cut first?
Yes, Maharaj.
Honest trees are cut first. Honest trees are cut first. Well, I don't know if honest trees are cut first. I was having this discussion with some friends the other day. You know, say the same thing in a different way. People who are very gentle and mode of goodness people, others will take advantage of them, pick on them, bully them, and, you know, all of those kinds of things. That's the honest tree gets cut first idea, I think. I find differently. I find that there is protection directly from Krishna or indirectly through through people. People protect, my experience is, people protect an honest person. And the one who is attacking an honest person is disrespected and put in his place by others who see an honest person being attacked, or a mode of goodness person being attacked, or maligned, or harmed in some way. That's my experience. So my experience is not that, yes, people that are bullies are going to bully, and they'll easily pick somebody that's gentle to bully because they can get away with it. They think they can get away with it. But the simple and honest and straightforward persons, they have another kind of protection than biceps. They have the protection of the Supreme, and that comes through all kinds of different interesting ways. So I'm not sure I agree with the premise. Now, one other thing about honesty. Honesty doesn't mean silence if you see something that needs to be corrected and you speak it. You speak it. If you speak in this way, again, Bhagavad Gita chapter 17, verse 15, if you speak in a way that's palatable, speak the truth palatably, and you're not going to get people to lower their eyebrows, they'll raise their eyebrows and say, wow, this person not only spoke the truth, but they said it palatably. So it's not just diplomacy, it's mode of goodness. Diplomacy can be sometimes duplicitous, but honesty has its own power. So how are we doing? I saw Dheeraj. Dheeraj, you wanted to say something? What's up? Okay.
Nothing, Maharaj. I was just accidentally unmuted.
Oh, okay. Yes, I'm hearing.
One more question.
Okay, something on YouTube. So let's do the YouTube. Okay.
There are several questions, Kumar. So the first question is from Sri Radhika Mataji. From the analogy of the iceberg, is it correct to understand that we are not aware of most of our values or assumptions because they lie under the surface? If so, is it reasonable to assume that despite lack of awareness, we can mold our consciousness to align with the desired values?
Yes. Now, as you become accomplished at introspection, you can become more aware of your values, especially over time. Like an earlier comment, you'll see a pattern in your behaviors and speech which indicate indirectly your values.
And a follow-up or another second part of the question is linking this to your Thanksgiving seminar. Is the difference between self-deception and this lack of awareness of what lies deep within the iceberg just the naivete of my intention?
Do you understand the question? Say it in different words.
So if I'm not aware of the deep down values, lack of awareness of what is deep down in the iceberg, and so the lack of awareness and self-deception, is there any difference, or is it just
there's a difference. Self-deception is delusional. Like, trying to think of a kind of obvious example. Let's go back to the first question where the comment was made. I deal with my sister in harsh ways that I don't deal with others. So self-delusional would be, I don't even recognize that I'm dealing with my sister in harsh ways compared to other ones. I'm being really nice to her. What's the problem? So self-delusional would be to not recognize that.
And the next question, or a clarification, so from Radhika Kasturi Mataji. Consciousness is a symptom of the soul, and consciousness is spread throughout the body.
That's correct.
And how do you understand the flow of Gita and connection of the verses? Do you have notes that we can refer to get the flow? This is from Radhika Kasturi Mataji also.
I don't have notes, I just have familiarity with Bhagavad Gita. But if you want some notes, then you can take Gita study guides, and they'll give you some notes of the flow of Bhagavad Gita. There's Burijan Prabhu. If you ask her to send me a little note. Ask her, she can send me a little note, and I can send her Burijan's overview of the flow of the verses of Bhagavad Gita. I'll do that.
So this is another question from Sri Radhika Mataji. Without full awareness of our values and beliefs, which seems impossible, for we are dealing with lifetimes of conditioning, are we being deceptive, being unaware of the forces driving our behaviors?
It sounds like the same question. What's the difference between lack of awareness and deception? Being deceptive. If you're, it's the same question. It's at least how I'm understanding the question, it's the same question. She probably can clarify what the distinction is, but if I'm not aware of something, by the process of knowledge and purification, I can become aware of that something that I'm not presently aware of. Self-deception is, even if it's brought to my attention, I'm not going to recognize it because there's self-deception. So the first is innocent and the other is not so innocent.
Maharaj, we have some questions on the chat on Zoom.
Okay, great. Let's do that.
Okay. So this question is from one of our first-time attendees, Melissa, and she's asking, would you please be able to talk a little bit more about liminal space?
Sure. Liminal space. There's some nice literature written by sociologist people and social engineering people that speak of embracing uncertainty in a transition of life. I think I'll back up and say, limen is a Latin word, and it's used in architecture, and it's used in carpentry, since it helps understand what liminal space means. When you build a house or design a house, and there's an outdoors and there's an indoors, and in between there's kind of like a patio. That's called a limen in architecture. It's neither outdoors nor indoors. It's a limen. Or when you're walking into a house, take notice next time, and you'll often find there's a little board that's right where the door closes, and it's neither inside nor outside. That's called a limen in carpentry terms. So limen is in between this and that. Where you are, where you want to be. This is social now. Where you are, where you want to be, is in between. That space is liminal space. And when you're trying to, let's say, you're trying to practice yoga, you're trying to go from present consciousness to higher consciousness. And in between is liminal space, consciousness-wise. And then there's the discomfort of moving from where you are to where you want to be. So commonly people like their comfort zone, and they don't want to be uncomfortable. Commonly, liminal space is uncomfortable because it's transitional. You're not there yet. You're neither here nor there. You're in this liminal space. So the whole process of yoga, like let's just take physical yoga or asanas. The asana process is different bodily postures help with this and that and the other thing in terms of the body and the muscle structure and the energy within the body and so forth and so on. And when you're doing the asanas in yoga, it's encouraged that you stretch a little bit, but not too much, because you can hurt yourself. So that's liminal space in physical yoga. And then in bhakti yoga, it's using the same thing we've been discussing, the Gita values. There are values that resonate with you. And yet at the same time, you know you're not there yet. And that's a liminal space. So when you're practicing bhakti yoga, like this little discussion that's been going on about what mode of goodness is, we're not there yet. So when you're trying to cultivate it, especially, not especially, but grounded in spiritual conception of who you really are, and that's a cultivation period. That's what liminal space is. And if you strive by right means, even in that liminal space, you can feel protected, you can feel sheltered, and you can feel strength to go from where you are to where you want to be. That's that Krishna image in the middle of those two big cliffs on both sides. Krishna will help you when you're going through that transition from where you are to where you want to be. That's a little additional thought on liminal space. It's important. There's some really interesting books written on the topic, because people that are adventuresome, they want to grow, I would assume. Everybody that's spending time Tuesday evening from 6 o'clock on, you're adventuresome. You want to go somewhere further beyond where you are presently. That's liminal space. And if you're guided by wisdom, especially a person that's wise, but even wisdom literature, then you can make that transition from where you are to where you want to be more effectively and more smoothly, more safely. Okay? That's a little thought. Now, I don't want to do any more of we'll just stay with the chat box, and then we're going to close. Any more on the chat box?
Yes, Maharaj, there's one more.
Okay.
It's from Monica, another one of our first-time attendees.
Oh.
She says, how do you help others who do not understand spirituality? What is that thing that we can ask them to connect to so that it will give them the path to understanding of viewing things in a spiritual sense?
My recommendation for you and myself is more important than what you say is who you are. Character speaks louder than your words. And if you're carrying the character of a person that has spirituality within or bhakti within, that's very powerful. It speaks louder than your words. Then second is, if you're tuned in, if you want to understand who they are and what it is that what's important to them, there's this rule of communication that says, first seek to understand before seeking to be understood. Try to understand the other person, let them know that they have been understood by you, and then you give them some support that can help them to take a step in where they are and where they want to go. So listen carefully to the other person and what's important to them, and try to help them understand how they can fulfill that which is important to them. Naturally, for the person that's communicating to this other individual has some degree of spiritual wisdom. So one of the best things you can do is cultivate your spiritual wisdom so that you have resource to give to people who are not yet understanding what you're understanding. When your heart is pure, you can communicate better, in other words.
Totally makes sense, Maharaj.
All right. Hare Krishna, Monica. This your first time, Monica?
Yes, this is my first time, but I am into spirituality since
good.
Since from at a very young age, actually.
Oh, good, good. So I hope you get an opportunity to, during this COVID times and everything else that's going on, that you get a chance to go through Bhagavad Gita a little bit.
Yes, I actually just started reading Bhagavad Gita during this Kartika Masam.
Oh, very good, very good. Are you attending some Bhagavad Gita discussion groups? There are some, if you're interested.
Sure, I will do that.
Okay. I'm sure Karuna will help you find out what's out there for Bhagavad Gita study groups. A little bit of time each week, something like that. Okay, so I think that takes care of everything for the evening.
Yes, Maharaj, I know it's late. There is one more question on Zoom, but I know it's late and we've
That's
already
okay.
been
We'll do one more question on Zoom, and then we're going to say Hari Bol.
Okay, Maharaj, thank you. Thank you for being so patient and kind. So this question is from Manoj. He's asking, how do we focus when we have millions of thoughts running in our head?
You cut off your head. No, that was a joke. There's different stages of what you can do. One little recommendation, the introductory kind of recommendation. 2, one is you engage yourself in vibrating spiritual sound with a very strong effort to hear the sound. It's a trick. The trick is you can trick the mind to be more calm and less distracted through sound. If you're hearing sound, then your mind is occupied. And the thing that you've occupied your mind with is going to cleanse. Let's just say you through another kind of sound, you listen to bebop music or something, whatever your favorite music is. That's not going to calm the mind. If you hear spiritual sound, it has the effect of cleansing and bringing the mind to a point of stillness. It takes practice, but that's what's effective. The second is you learn to tolerate the noise. I'll just mention, over here by my side, on my left, there's a candle. And the candle is a noisy candle. And I'm thinking, your question is quite okay. I don't mind it at all. But it's like the mind. The mind is making some noise over here. And I'm not just, when I'm absorbed in these questions and answers, I'm not even hearing that crackling sound. And, you know, every now and then when it gets quieter, I hear the crackling sound and smell the nice fragrance of the scented candle, and it's nice. I'm glad they put it there. I'm just making the comment. You tolerate the noise because there's something that you want to achieve. Like school. You know, you work hard at your schoolwork. Why? Because there's something important to you in the academic arena, and so you apply yourself carefully. And there you can be doing a zillion other things, but you're focusing as best you can on that which is important to you. So you tolerate that noise distraction thing because there's something that you wish to achieve. And by the way, that's one of the things that's going to come up in the Gita values. So stay tuned. And I think what I'll do is, you have the document. He'll pass the document around to your group here. So you can take a look at the 6 Gita values on your own time. You did it already. Okay, you have it already in your inbox. Okay? Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. So thank you so much, Maharaj. Words are not enough really to say how grateful we are for your presence. You took us again into that sacred space and made us think deeply about who we are and how we can see everyone with equal vision, and so many other related questions. So we're very, very grateful to you, and we look forward to having you with us again soon for the 2nd Gita value and onward.
Hare Krishna.
So Hare Krishna, and thank you to your technical team also for a very nice and seamless presentation. So we'll end now here. Thank you everybody for attending. For those who came for the first time, thank you for sharing your emails. You will be hearing from us shortly, and you can join the other programs that we have coming up. Till next time, everybody stay safe, stay warm, and see you soon. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Did you remember about it? The Mahaprasad.
Thanksgiving holiday? Good. Very good. Sometimes in this program, it comes with that not just will, it still comes.